Hello guys, welcome back to another Couchisode. Today I'm going to be bringing you two games that time apparently as forgotten.
And I will spice things up and refreshen everything in the end, so stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Hello guys, welcome back to the Couchisode of today, where as usual every week we bring you a lot of old and moldy, and without further ado, we're gonna jump right into our first game of the night, and we're gonna be talking about Jordan versus Bird one-on-one from 1988. This was for MS-DOS and it was developed and published by Electronic Arts.
I remember that one so well.
Oh, so do I. Such memories about this game. It
Yeah.
was the late 80s, and although desktop computers were still not an item that was present in every household, consoles like the NES and the Atari 8-bit, not so much in our country, the Atari though, were bringing affordable ways of enjoying this whole new evolution of home entertainment. As it was no surprise, Electronic Arts was, and still is to this day, a respected developer for many sports titles that came out on the market. Now, while the majority of our friends, and probably you remember this too, were very drawn into football or football-related games, there was always this curiosity, and especially about me, and I already mentioned this with other games also, especially NASCAR games, that was always the curiosity of trying to see how other sports were faring beyond the TV screens and the monitors. You know, how were they being brought up? How were the ports being done? So, and from that curiosity, one day I got to a friend's house that wanted me to show a new game that he had there, and that it was on his ultra-fast 386 DX40 megahertz Jordan versus Bird one-on-one.
I actually
Two of
played
the
it on
most-
286.
I did play it on a 386. That was my first, the one one of my first games on my first PC, and it has two of the most iconic basketball players of the NBA, Michael Jordan and Larry Bird. They got immensely bored and decided to go one-on-one with each other, and that's the premise of this game. Basically, whether it's going to be a full game of one versus one, a slam dunk, or a three-point contest, this game, in this game, the idea is to be the next NBA legend at the tip of your fingers, right? So we can choose who we want to play with, either Michael or Larry, but also we can share a keyboard and play 1v1 with your friends. And this is one of those games that I remember dearly playing with my cousins when they'd visit. I'd mainly play 3-point or slam dunk contest, as those were the very fast games that didn't really require us to be, you know, glued on the screen for hours, and would not result in our moms nagging about it. You know, they were always saying, "Get out of the computer,"
Yeah.
or so. And actually, or so we thought, because it was irrelevant how short the games were, because we would spend so many hours there that would defeat the whole purpose of this being a short game anyways. So a great experience that this game brought, especially on the PC with with one keyboard actually, but split in two, that we could use. And in essence, it's a great game. I am 100% sure that this one has been lost in time, and many people probably don't remember it, and
was so
I can
good.
assure you, and this is what I can tell you, even if you don't know this game, I can assure that if you pick it up and play it, you will be glued to the screen just like we were back then in those times. For those who actually
It was
remember
so
this game,
addictive.
I'm pretty sure that it kind of got like forgotten in the back of your head or something like that. But this game is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And despite being so simple, it was not like anything like Harlem Globetrotters that we just played, that I remember playing on, I believe it was in 1990, it was a few years later.
We still have to talk
sorry.
about that one. It was pretty cool.
You know what? I didn't find it that good. Well, not that I
it
didn't
was
find that
fun.
good. I didn't have as much fun with that one than this one, despite that one included like full games and stuff like that, like, you know, real basketball games. It wasn't just like this. This one was just amazing because it was just about the multiplayer experience. It was just one-on-one. Whether it would be the computer or your friends, that was the ultimate
so
goal.
cool.
And I think this was an excellent game to play with your friends, sitting on the couch. If you had an NES, this game actually came out for the NES also. But if you had a computer, sitting right next to you on the keyboard.
I also talked about a game like this one on the ZX Spectrum in one of the Portuguese video called Fernando Martins Basket Master. It was also one-on-one, and it was so cool.
Yeah. But the thing is, this one here, I think that the PC, it was not as slow paced as the one.
No, it took it to a
the
whole
ZX
other
Spectrum.
level.
But again, it was a different machine with way more capabilities. But something to discuss at a later point. So, what do you have for us today then, Blade?
Okay, I have a game that's very special, and I think most people haven't touched this one, or they don't remember it, and time actually forgot about this gem of a game. And this is quite a unique game that came out in 1992 called Dune. Yes, Dune. Based
I don't think
on
people
Frank
forgot
Herbert's Dune.
Dune.
No, the problem is this game came out in 92, and in the same year, Dune 2, The Battle for Arrakis, or The Building of a Dynasty, it was known as with the two names, came out. And it was the real first RTS game out, and it completely overshadowed this one. And this game is really peculiar, because
I think that the recent remake of not the remake, the recent reboot, as you want to call it.
yeah, the
of
new
Dune,
movie. I still haven't
new
watched
movie.
it. I only watched
No,
the original.
I haven't watched it too, but I guess that it's probably what recently probably refreshed people's minds about Dune. And I think that probably also brought many people, and I've been seeing some YouTube videos of some younger YouTubers sort of like that reviewing this kind of games, these old games, because they say that they watched the movie. I mean, although if you want to go for the Doom story, you go back to the books anyways. But the movie was not this one because I haven't watched it, but the other one that we had, I believe in the 90s. That was a really good one, and so was the game. But
no, but getting back to the game, this game has a funny story because Virgin at the time asked Cryo in France to develop this game, and they were way ahead in developing it, and at some point Virgin actually acquired Westwood Studios, and they just informed Cryo that they should stop working on the game because they would pick up the Dune name and deliver it to Westwood to work on it.
We've heard of you.
Yeah, and these guys at Cryo were so pissed off that they secretly continued working on this game without Virgin knowing it. At some point they found out, and the executives actually flew to France to tell them they had to stop working on the game. And the guy that was leading the project actually talked to the Virgin executive and told him, you are an idiot. You haven't even seen the game we have, and you're dissing it and dumping it, so see what we have, and then tell us you want us to can it. And they actually saw the game, and the game went ahead. And if you look at the story of this studio, they didn't make any really good games, but this one, it was really a gem.
I played it on the Amiga. I mean, it was the first time I had contact with this RTS was with the Amiga. I didn't actually play this game that much on the PC.
The fun part about this game, it worked in real time. Time kept passing even if you didn't do anything. It was a mix of adventure, kind of like an RPG or like a point and click mix, and it had a strategy element. You played as Paul Atreides, and you landed on Dune with your family. You had your palace, and you had another palace with Yarkonen. And you can guess where this is going. You actually had to travel around Dune, meeting the Freemen, and getting them as allies to increase your army and to help you mine the spice, because the spice was always a secret to Dune. And there were a lot of ways you could do this, and other specific thing this game had is the way you interacted with other characters. They already mattered, and you could take them with you and make a difference in whatever you were doing at that point. They would influence directly what was happening, and it was really cool. And then you had this strategic element where you actually had to either assign people to work. Later in the game you could just try to get the planet to be more green, to restore it, but you would lose the spice, and that was a problem because you needed the spice to pay the Emperor, or he would send basically his troops to kill you, and that's how you lost the game, and you had to worry about the Yarkonen. And then there were little details, like at some points you could spy on enemy fortresses and mining operations, and you could even go there yourself and explore by yourself, And if you got to a base where the military wasn't there and they had these helicopters, I don't know the name they had back then, you could actually steal them, pick them up and fly back to your base so you could have them. You know, these little small details made this game so but so good. And no other game up till now just mixed all these elements to perfection like this game did. And it's a shame that it got so overshadowed back then with the release of Dune 2, because literally, if you haven't played this one, just pick it up. It's still an awesome game. You can play it on the PC, on the Amiga, or on the Sega CD. But if you have a choice, just use the PC version. It's the best of the three. No doubt about it.
I have, as I said, my contact with this game was with the Amiga. And, I mean, this was like when I was probably 10, 11, 12 years old, something like this. And I didn't really have the, and I have to say, the mental ability to play, you know, real-time strategy games. This was more a thing that my cousin, which was the owner of the Amiga back then, that he was already, I think he was 18 or 17 or 18, so he was already developing a taste for those games, and obviously the mental acuity, let's say.
Beware, this was real time, but wasn't RTS like in the sense, because the real first RTS was Dune 2.
I know,
no
but
doubt about
the thing is that those elements that you just said and all those details require a little bit, I mean, I wouldn't say that require an IQ of 400 to control, but it does, I like the mixing of the elements though, it's definitely excellent, but the question is, I didn't really grab that much interest to it because I just plainly thought that it was too difficult to play. So again, I enjoyed it much later, and obviously when I was an adult, obviously picked it up. And although I must say I haven't really played it that much, I have a very peculiar taste in RTS games, or close to RTS games, let's say strategy, adventure games, something like that. So, but anyways, it's an excellent game, and people should just try it out.
Awesome. If you haven't played this one ever, just give it a chance. It's unique.
Whatever you can find digitally, I'm guessing that this still exists digitally available.
Google, probably.
Sure. No, I'm talking about GOG releases or something like that.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's there, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll leave it
nice,
below there on the description if there is something about if there is any digital version of Dune available. I honestly also don't know. So moving on to the next game. I'm going for a very good one that I have to say that I have no idea how I didn't remember this game earlier, despite that I spent so many hours on it. And the game that I'm going to be talking about is Crimson Skies. It's from the year 2000, and it was developed for Windows, also for the arcades, and it was developed by Zipper Interactive, Aces Game Studios, and published by Microsoft Game Studios. And after getting a decent joystick for my PC, this was one of the games I played the most, besides all the Star Wars space combat ones that we already talked about, some of them here. Crimson Skies, it's kind of like a cross between a simulator and an aerial space combat, aerial combat game, where in an alternate 1930, our named character, Nathan Zachary, is kind of like Captain Jack Sparrow, but on a plane. So in this alternative timeline, where the US has been divided into small sovereign states, air transport is the only way to getting around. So our friend Nathan sorry about that. Our friend Nathan is set to grab his aircraft and his crew, called the Fortune Hunters, to steal from the rich and the wealthy. Now, one of the things that it can be immediately seen on how well the balanced game is between setting the expectations as not being a simulator but providing an absolutely amazing experience as an arcade game. Although basic physics of the airplane are there, the whole concept of reality gets really distorted when you're able to perform loops with barely any airspeed and reach, speeds and do maneuvers that are completely unrealistic with those kinds of planes. Nevertheless, as the game designer Jordan Weissman said, I'm going to quote here, "It's not about simulating reality, it's about fulfilling fantasies." And I think this just says spot on what this game is. It has 11 playable aircrafts that are customizable from the simple engine to the frame itself. We'll be also to choose between primary and secondary weapons to wreak havoc amongst rich people, while we fulfill our role as a prospected heir pirate that gets his reputation from his bold actions. So when I said that he's a Captain Jack Sparrow, is because he's only after the rich and the wealthy, just like Captain Jack Sparrow was always trying to find some treasure to get by. A game that could have been a major success, sales success, but it was not because of its technical glitches that plagued it. And one of the most annoying one was that this game had several issues that would delete your saved games. And this was later addressed by a patch. Funny thing though, I suffered from this problem and I actually never got the patch to this game. What happened was I was able to get another version of the game that had this already resolved, and I played this game, I dropped it, and then I later on was able to play it again now that I had the patched version. And this was completely annoying because it didn't happen all the time. Sometimes you would just, play the game, run through it, and this happened to me, and I remember so vividly that I had gone through, I guess probably more than half of the game, and came back the next day just to find out that I had to start all over again because the save games were not there anymore. So yeah, it was a big issue with this one. Either way, a great game that kept me for many hours abusing my Microsoft Sidewinder joystick, and that still works to this day, and actually was able to apply Microsoft Flight Simulator X with it. So believe me, this Sidewinder still works to this day, very good. And I played even Star Wars Squadrons on it. So a great joystick that
I remember a joystick back then. I think it was from Thrustmaster that was like a huge cockpit.
Oh no. This is like average range stuff. It's not like stuff that costs like $1 million for back in the time. We're talking about like normal joystick. It had a throttle pad. It had 6 buttons, I believe. Moved in 16 directions or whatever that is. I don't know, 8 directions, I believe. Anyways, doesn't matter. Great joystick, and after 20-something years, it's still here to this day, and it still works, and it's a great one. Had many hours of fun with it, and it's also a great game that you guys need to try. And I guess that it's time now to freshen up, right?
Yeah, it's time to freshen up.
Let's freshen up and see what we have there for the odor remover that we have for today. So what up?
The mold smell. Okay, so I have a really cool game. It's fresh, but not as fresh as you think, because it's from 2014. I got this game back then. Yeah, it's still new.
If it's less than 20 years old, then it's still
fresh. It's fresh.
I guess that's it.
Okay, so I got this game back then on GOG, but you can get it on Steam too. It's a game called Banished. And this is a good game for me to recommend, specifically in this time of the year, because it's a cool game to play when you have a mug with something hot like tea, milk, whatever, coffee, whatever you prefer, and it's raining outside and you have some time. This is a city building game, and it's really cool, but it's really a peculiar one because, in every city building game you usually play, you have this one constant: you have to manage your economy. So you have money to manage. Not in this game. There's no money. You don't need to worry about money. You just need to worry that everything works, and you have all the resources and all the people taken care of, and you can develop everything so that it just works. Well, there is a slight learning curve on this one. The first few times you play it, you will have a hard time, but the tutorial is just perfect. And they have this very clean UI, so you can manage everything easily without having much of a hassle to get anywhere. You start the game with literally nothing and just a few elements to start the game. And you need to start getting resources, start to build the basic buildings and expanding. Everything will be affected by the starting area you have. And then you have to be really careful how you build everything and how you organize your constructions as you grow, because usually in every game like this you can just get to this point of balance when everything will just work on their own. Well, not here, because there will always be unbalance somewhere, and if you just let things go, it will end up just unbalancing everything. Because even if when you're growing crops, for instance, if you have your food sorted out and everything is fine, you can get to this specific year where for some reason winter comes earlier and everything just dies, and you will have a hard time. You'll have a lot of people dying, for instance. You have to manage the distance your workers are from their workplace And some of the work structures actually have to be far away from the main city, and you have to be careful to manage all of this. And then you even have to trade elements with other villages at some point, and you have to, well, keep fine-tuning it all the way, because there is no fine point, because at some point the game will just unbalance because something happens. And then there's even the detail when you're building houses, because when you build houses, you usually get couples in the houses and you have kids. Kids are necessary because you need to grow new adults, because your population will get older and unproductive and eventually die. So you need to get them to reproduce, have kids. But kids, if you have a lot of them, they take up a lot of food and they produce zero. So
that's really interesting mechanic,
yeah.
You know,
And it's
that's
really,
what we're discussing.
You really need to get the hang to this, because there are so many details you need to manage. They just took away the worry about managing money, and they just get the worry on you need to manage everything else properly. And to a specific point that you need to find a balance that will never be there. This is really cool. This game is really good.
It's a really in-depth look at those city building, let's say, aspects of it, because it doesn't really. I was reading about this game. I didn't play this game, obviously, so I was reading about it before we actually recorded.
It's really
and definitely it involves the most typical aspects of city building. But then it also involves a little bit of settlers on it, because of the the units you have to create, the warehouses, the workers and so on, the proximity to resources to actually get those materials, such as wood or whatever, fishermen or whatever that is. The question is that that you just mentioned about these little nits and tricks and details about developing and growing the population really does make this game very advanced and probably very good for people that that like this kind of details, that just don't want the basic experience of just put buildings here, put some roads around it, and expect everything to go well and nice, because that's that's really
I think will never go well and nice on its own. I can assure you this.
That's really the nice thing about this game, and I think that's really the selling point here, which we advise you guys to try on. It's an affordable game, so it's not something that you will spend a lot of money on. So I guess that we can wrap up for today and say to you guys that what you're not spending your money on is on leaving likes to us. No, leaving the likes, subscribing the channel, as we always say, and giving us the support. Everything is free. Everything is free. We do everything for free here in this channel.
Oh, and, wait, it's free and we don't add microtransactions, so it's full free. Okay.
Definitely not. Yes, exactly. It's not pay to win. Also,
no.
You don't get better just because you subbed. Well, you do get better to us, actually. Anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching, for being with us for another week. We'll be returning next week with a more old and moldy, as we usually say. And as we usually say, guys, thank you very much and game on.
Game on, everyone. See you next week.